everyone, and welcome back to another one of these screencasts. This one is on fractions, percentages, and decimals, and it's really important because these all work together, and if we understand how these work, it'll help us in so many different ways. And you'll probably work out that the tools that you already have available to you will help you in this area, and the information that you'll learn in this area will help you in so many other areas as well. So it's really, really useful. Okay, so here's the first type of questions that we're going to need to face. We're going to convert between fractions, decimals, and percentages, or percentages, decimals to fractions. Either way, we're going to learn how to do all of them. But we're going to start with the fractions. So I'm going to write the first fraction here, the one we're going to work on. Here's the example, and what do we do? So we're going to convert them to decimals and percentages. Now, this is a simple one, but the way I want you to look at it is this bottom number. Okay, there's two ways to do it. Can we convert this bottom number into 100? And we can on this one. We can times it by 10. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I can convert that bottom number into 100, which means I can convert the top number into 30. So in a test, and fingers crossed this never happens to you, you get 30 marks out of 100. All right, that means you've got 30%. Hopefully you have an understanding of that. Now to get the decimal, very simply, we're taking 30 and we're dividing it by 100. And we can see if we divide it by 100, we'd end up with 0.3. Right, because we've got 30, we've got our point there, and we're dividing it by 100. Yeah, so we're going to get 0.3. Okay, so let's move down to the second one. So this is the 2/5 one. Right, this is not too dissimilar because we can easily convert the 5 into 100 by timesing it by 20. But on this occasion, I'm going to show you the other way. So if we've got numbers that aren't easily converted, numbers like 6, 7, 8, then we can use old school maths and just do 2 divided by 5. So what do? We add a couple of zeros just to make things easy for us. We go through how many 5s go into 2? Well, they don't, right? But we have now a point and a remainder of 2. How many 5s go into 20? Well, there's 4, and then we stop, all right? So as a decimal, we're going to have 0.4, and as a percentage, we divided by 2. So on this one, we're going to divided by 100, so we're going to times by 100, and that gives us to 40%. All right, so look, add a couple of zeros. We're going to times by 100, which will give us 40%. Okay, so the last one, again, we can easily convert this bottom number into 100 by timesing it by 4. Whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So we're going to end up with 8 over 100, which is 8%. And as a decimal, we're going to divide by 100, which gives us 0.08. Some people get this wrong because they put like 0.8. But just remember, 0.8 would be 80%. So this is going to help us on this one here as well. Okay, so let's do now the decimals next. So we're going to turn those into percentages for a start. So we're going to times them all by 100, which gives us 45%. Times by 100, which gives us 19%. And then all of those are done. Okay, so now let's work on converting our percentages into decimals. We're going to divide by 100 there, which will give us 0.5. Divide by 100, which will give us 0.05. And the last step is, how do we write a percentage or a decimal as a fraction? I always like to work with the percentages and convert them into fractions rather than the decimals. All right, so like we had up here, 30 marks out of 100 is the same as 3 marks out of 10. So our starting point would be to start with, and I'm just going to get rid of all of this, so I've got a nice clean sheet to work with, would be to put our percentage over 100. And then we would look to simplify. Now, hopefully you've done some work on simplifying, but if you haven't, then you can go back and watch the screencast on that. But let's starting point would be, for the first one, would be 45 over 100. Now, we can actually cancel that down to 9 over 20. And then that is it. That's all that it can be. So it'll be 9 over 20. But we're going to cancel that down. Now, I'm not going to go through the process of cancelling it down. You need to watch that video if you can't cancel down. The next one is 50. So it's going to be 50 over 100, and we can cancel that down to 1/2. Now we've got 19 over 100, and believe it or not, that does not cancel down, so it stays as 19 over 100. And last but not least, we've got 5 out of 100, or over 100, which cancels down. This is divisible by 5, and this is divisible by 5, so we've got 1 over 20. And that's how we do them. That might be a lot of work, but hopefully you've already got the skills to do that. Timesing, dividing by hundreds would be really beneficial, and learning how to cancel down fractions is another one. And the bus stop method when you're dividing. Okay, so hopefully you got those right. The next one is find 12% of 24, or find 22% of 43. These are incredibly easy. In maths, when we see of, we can pretty much always put times, okay? So what we're going to do to work these out is we're going to convert our percentage into a decimal, and then we're going to times it by the number. So this one would be 0.22 timesing by 43, all right? Now, for me, I always use the lattice method for this. Now, I know a lot of you might be throwing stuff at the screen. I don't like the lattice method. Well, I just find the lattice method sort of the most reliable form of multiplying. And the reason for that is you're always working in single digit multiplication. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to set it up. So 24 timesing by point, you notice put the point, 1, 2. Let's go through that now. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to collect up all of my numbers, and I'm left with, and watch this, the decimal going to roll down this line here to get to there. So my answer is going to be 2.88 for that one. Okay, the next one, we're going to go 43, timesing by 0.22. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. Going to collect all my numbers up in these columns. So I've got 6 here. I've got 6 and 8. Yeah. So we've got 14. So I carry my 1 over there and my 4 down there. I go there. So I've got 9. And then I'm going to roll down my decimal place down to here. Okay. And I can see there I've got 9.46 as my answer. Okay. So now it's your turn. I'm going to give you these ones. I'm going to write them out for you, but then you need to do them yourself. Okay, and the next one is going to be 242 timesing by 0.03. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to go and do those, and then pause the video and do those, and then come back and see if you got the right answers. Okay, so let's give this a go. I've got 10 here, I've got 12 here, and I've got 6 there. I've got 45, got 54, and I've got 27. All right, I'm going to add up all my columns. It's got 5 here. I've got 8 there. I've got 15 there. You see how I carried over the top. 8. I've got 10 there. And I've got 1 there. Now roll down my decimal point into here. So I've got 105.85. And last but not least, I've got 0, 0, and 0. I've got 6, 12, and 6. Column it up. So I've got 6 here, 2 there, 7 there, and nothing else. And roll down my decimal place to there. And I'm nice and happy. And that is how we do it. Up next is a quiz question. And I always say this, but it's a really important part of this process, because if you can now take the knowledge you've learned, put it into the quiz and you've got it right, you're well on your way to being successful. After that, though, it's not about, oh, I know it. Find some questions, great websites like Corbett Maths, Mr. Barton Maths, Mr. Hickety Maths, they've all got great questions that you can do on these topics that will help you just to really get it right in the brain stem and memory bank for you. So, right, here goes the question. Here's the quiz. Please don't use a calculator. Work it out through, then come back and see if you got the right answers. And there we go. Fingers crossed you've done it all now. I'm going to reveal the answers in a few seconds' time. But if you want to pause, just make sure you got anything correct. The only tip I'll give you is, for this question here, we're going to have a remainder, lots of remainders. All right, so we might want to think about that, and we might want to cut it off after 2 decimal places. Right, we might even have a recurring number that keeps popping up. That's a little tip. So if you haven't got a recurring number, then please go back and check that. But other than that, we're going to go in 2, 1, now. And there goes all our answers there, guys and girls. Fingers crossed you did really well. Take a little bit of time, pause the video, check your work. But as always, go now and write a revision card on this topic that you can pull out at any point and test yourself. And until next time, it's been an absolute pleasure helping you get better at maths.